I keep on thinking like it's almost over. It keeps going. And the more and more I go, the more and more I'm like, oh shit. If something happens, I am fucked. Wow. Okay. Well, let's take a look at the world though. Oh. These fucking towers, dude. Those are killing me. I am going to say something right now. Like, heights as a human do something to me. But I always face my fears. Like, I jumped out of planes and skydived before. I believe you always have to face that stuff. Oh shit. If I fall, at least I fall into the grass. Whew! You don't understand though, this does something to me. I'm weird because I love fear. And the more fear I feel, the better it is. Because when you're afraid, things come into focus. Everything comes into... There's no time for bullshit. There's no time to... You're not thinking about taxes or, you know, you're not thinking of paying bills or how much it's going to cost to eat breakfast. The only thing you're thinking about is, oh fuck, shit's hitting the fan. I gotta deal with it. Or if this motherfucking thing snaps on me, I'm going to fucking be in a lot of pain, if not dead. Fear forces your perspective. Forces your perspective. So I'm a big fan of Mr. Rogers. There was something that Mr. Rogers said, and I always love when I see his interviews and when he's talking, because the one thing I always get out of those is sincerity. A pure individual. And he was saying that love is the force behind everything. You know, love or the lack of it. That's behind our interactions, our choices. I don't know if you can see there's two. And that's true. I have a love, I guess you could say, of fear. I have a love of facing my fears. I don't like being afraid, but I like feeling fear. I never want to be afraid. I don't think anybody wants to live afraid. But dealing with fear is different than being afraid. And that's where I'm at. Another tower. Should be okay. And you know what? One thing you gotta realize when you face your fears, when you're dealing with fear, and when you decide not to be afraid, that's the only real time you get to actually see and do things that few people do or see. I can remember mowing lawns from the time I was 11 years old, and well, at that time I was just picking up garbage with the rake. But I would be sitting there and thinking about looking at the sky from a different perspective, from a different location on the planet. And I've done that here. Don't ever be afraid. It's okay to feel fear. It's okay to feel it. But don't ever live in it. Overcome it. And after a while, it all just becomes part of the journey. You know, there's a line in Game of Thrones that didn't make it to the show, but it's very, it's one of my favorite lines that Eddard Stark says to Brandon Stark. because the dad starts telling him, it's after in the show, it's right after they do that thing where he, cuts the guy's head off. It's the first episode. And, they kind of gloss over it and they go straight to the thing where they find the wolves and all that. I'm kind of going on a tangent. But there's a part where Brendan is listening to Jon Snow and Robb Stark. And they're both debating as to whether the guy died as a coward or whether he was afraid or whether he was brave. Jon believes he had a sense of bravery. He wasn't afraid to die. Whereas Robb thinks that no, he was totally afraid. He was scared. I'm going to come up on another transit. So, see, there we go. Number 8. We're at number 8. And Eddard starts talking to Brandon. And Brandon says, well, Jon thinks that he was brave, that he faced his death bravely. And Robb thinks that he was afraid. And Eddard asks him, well, what do you think? And Brandon says, I don't know. Can a man be afraid and brave at the same time? And if you know the character of Ned Stark, this makes a lot of sense where he says that's the only time, he looks very somber and just says that's the only time a man can be brave. And I believe that. That is the only time a person can really be brave is when they're feeling fear, when they're afraid. They decide not to be afraid, but to face what has to be faced. Here comes another tower. I think we're at number 9. Ooh, look, I can see a building in the background. We're almost there. Thank you, Jeebus. All right. There goes my rambling for the tram ride up. Ooh, man, if we drop now, it's like 2 feet. Awesome. Oh, for some reason condensation just dropped on me. It's kind of weird. Wait for my door to open and I can hop out here. Into the abyss.